Hello, my name is Joe Reshetko, and it is July 20th, 2025. This is for Sonoran Desert Institute class FTH 212. My class number is 56575. It is July 20th, 2025. My firearm is currently in pieces, so it is definitely clear. I have no live ammunition anywhere in my workspace, and everything is locked up back in the safe. We are going to start out this class identifying and talking about the 6 parts that were randomly selected for explanation. First one's going to be the striker block. So this piece right here. All right. The purpose of that piece is to stop the striker from impacting the round unless the trigger safety is engaged. All right. In the cycle of operations, it's imperative, it's integral in the firing aspect of it, because if it's not properly dropped with the safety and out of the way, the striker won't be able to engage with the round, hence stopping the round from firing, so it's going to interrupt the cycle of operations of firing. Its critical dimensions, it's about 0.5 inches high, and the width is about 0.2 wide at its smallest point. Because that part is buried here in the frame, in the slide, it's really difficult to damage it unless you are not properly doing the proper assembly or disassembly operations. Not going in the proper order, relieving spring tension when needed, things like that. In the regular operation of it, it's a very difficult part to damage, or for really to become worn out. So basically, that would come down to operator error. In regards to specific training to get it out, it's all coming back down to the proper order of disassembly and reassembly. In regards to taking it out to replace that part, because you have to actually disassemble multiple parts within the frame, I would say 20 to 25 minutes. The second part, which was randomly selected, which is interesting, is the actual striker. All right. Now the striker's job is to actually impact the primer of the round, causing the explosion. Hence the firing portion of the cycle of operations. All right. If this part is worn or damaged, the round won't fire. Critical points of failure is if the trigger safety is not working in the firearm, and you squeeze the trigger and the striker block doesn't get out of the way, so that is the round will not impact, or the striker won't impact the round face, so the round won't go off. So it's going to interrupt the failure. It's going to interrupt the firing process of the firearm. The critical dimensions are 2.1 inches long, 0.4 inches across the top here, and 0.1 inches along the middle. I would say the same with the striker block. It's going to take you about 15 to 20 minutes to disassemble the firearm to get to that point in order to replace it. Not utilizing the proper tools, not going in the proper order, forcing things where they're not supposed to go is pretty much the only way to damage the striker, unless it's exposed in the proper way and the tip gets rounded off so it won't make the proper impact on the primer of the round. And that could also be a cause of wear and damage. Third part we're going to talk about is the extractor. It's this piece right here. All right, its critical dimensions are about 0.6 inches wide, 0.4 long, and about 0.1 thick. All right, its job is to catch the casing as it's coming back out of the firearm. As it's coming back out of the frame, to pull it out of the chamber and in turn eject it out of the firearm. So if that piece is broken or damaged, the firearm is going to fail to eject and extract. All right, hence extractor, extracting. In regards to removing it, we're talking about the same amount of time, because you're disassembling the entire frame of the firearm to get to that part. We're still talking like 20 to 25 minutes to get there, to pull that part out to replace it. It's a difficult part to damage. If you're in there trying to pry out a round that's caught up or something like that, you could possibly damage it. But it's actually, because it's integral in the frame, damaging it would take some actual some work actually. Let's see. So we get the magazine catch spring was the next part that was randomly selected. This is the piece which it engages with the magazine release to lock the magazine in place when it's loaded, or to release it and let it drop out of the firearm. So its problem is going to be in the loading phase of cycle operations, because if that magazine's not properly seated or it's not locked in place, it is not going to be able to load the rounds. And in the same time, if it is not able to release the magazine, you're not going to be able to do the unloading process. It's actually a relatively quick piece to take out. You don't have to take much apart besides just getting down in there and moving it aside using the proper tool, and removing the magazine catch and the spring as well. So I would say about 5, maybe 10 minutes to get it out. In addition, you can't use the wrong type of tools or use too much force to get it out, because then you could damage it, bend it, and it won't apply the proper pressure to lock or release that magazine. Its critical dimensions are about 1.4 inches long and 0.5 inches thick, 0.05 inches thick, excuse me. Yeah, the other part, that the fifth part that was randomly selected, is the front grip pin. All right, now the front grip pin's responsibility is to hold the trigger housing and the locking block into place inside the firearm. All right, without that part, the firearm is going to malfunction completely. All right, it's not going to be able to fire. It's not going to be able to extract or load, because none of the operations are going to take place, because the firearm's going to jam up as it's trying to come back, because none of those critical parts that are at the front of your lower receiver are going to be locked into place correctly, causing all kinds of problems in the long run. Damaging that piece, it's if you're trying to use too much force to get it out, because it's a roll pin, you have to use a roll pin punch, a block, and your nylon hammer to actually remove it from the frame itself. It's a difficult process if you're trying to use too much force and you're not patient with it, you could bend it, or if you're not using the right size roll pin, you could kind of warp it out of shape, or you could roll the ends over, making that part pretty much useless. And the final part that was randomly selected was my slide. All right, so the slide is critical in all portions and all functions of the firearm. All right, if this slide is damaged, every part of the cycle operations could be interrupted in the function of the firearm. All right, the only ways I can see really damaging the slide is if you're forcing it back onto the lower receiver rails hard enough that you could damage the rails, or you're not using the proper cleaning materials, you're scrubbing at it with a brass brush or anything like that that could cause it to lose its functionality. I mean, dropping it, banging it up, of course, if you bend it in the wrong way, if you're that brutal with your firearms, it could cause major problems. But overall, this piece is relatively hard to truly damage. Its critical dimensions, it's 6.7 inches long. It is 0.8 inches deep, 0.98 inches wide. Its primary responsibility is it houses all the upper receiver parts, all the parts that are engaging with the round, causing it to, without this piece, you don't have a firearm. Basically, it is the rest of the stuff is just useless junk. All right, we're going to go ahead and pause the video for a moment. I'm going to put everything back in place and show you the layout. So here we have the exploded view of all of the parts of this firearm completely disassembled. Basically, when I took the firearm apart, I set everything together in groups so I could much more easily access the pieces and parts to go in order to put everything back together. So I've reassembled the firearm. We're going to conduct a functions check and a safety check. First off, the firearm is clear. There is nothing in the chamber. All right, going to release the firearm. First off, I'm going to check the trigger safety, and as you can see, it will engage. Now I'm going to pull back on the trigger and ensure that if the firing pin or the striker drops, but I'm going to hold the trigger to the rear. All right, I'm going to rack it. Going to listen for the disconnector, and it clicked. Weapon fires again, one more time. Click. Trigger safety still is engaged. All right, now we're going to lock our slide to the, or we're going to pull the firearm slightly out of battery. And we're going to see there's nothing's going to happen there. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to insert an empty magazine into the firearm, make sure it locks into place. We're going to ensure that it locks to the rear. We're going to then release our magazine, return the slide forward, once again ensuring the weapon fires, and we are good to go functions-wise. Now we're going to do a dummy ammunition check. We'll start out by loading the rounds into the magazine, ensuring the follower and the spring compress properly. All right, loaded 4 rounds into the magazine. Now we're going to insert the magazine into the firearm. We're going to ensure that the magazine locks in completely. All right, now we're going to cycle the firearm, loading the first dummy round. All right, now we're going to squeeze the trigger. First off, we're going to test the trigger safety, ensure that it doesn't move. And now we're going to engage, listen to the firing pin or the striker to drop. All right, while holding back the trigger, we're going to ensure that the firearm ejects the round. Out it went. We're going to release, listening for the disconnector. All right, we're going to squeeze the trigger again. Weapon fired. Going to go through that until the firearm is empty. Slide should lock to the rear with the magazine still in. Sure the magazine drops out cleanly, and the dummy fire functions check is complete. For the last part of this assignment, we're going to go through the cycle of operations of the firearm. All right, so once again, firearm is clear. I have 3 rounds of dummy ammunition loaded into the magazine because I lost one during the last demonstration. The first thing we're going to do is it's going to be feeding. So we're going to apply the feed source in the magazine, which will place the rounds in position to be fed into the firearm. When you rack the slide, the barrel drops, allowing the round to engage with the feed ramp, and the breech strips the round off the top of the magazine, forcing it into place. All right, that's the chambering portion of it. Locking is when the breech face engages with the back of the barrel, pushing it into place, locking it in place. Next thing that happens is when you engage the trigger, the striker block is compressed, pushing it out of the way, allowing the striker to engage with the primer on the round, and that is the firing portion. All right, the round explodes, causing blowback, forcing the slide to the rear, and what's going to happen is it's going to drop the barrel, allowing the extractor to take the round out of the chamber and eject it out of the firearm, going through the unlocking, extracting, and ejecting phase. Also, as the firearm is racked to the rear, the weapon is cocked, resetting the striker for the engagement of the next round. Firearm was out of battery, and that's the cocking process.